So here we are at 2.8. We're almost through this long journey of topic 2. Man, there's a lot of topics in topic 2. And second to last thing, we're going to talk about our respiration and photosynthesis. My not so personal favorites, really. Been over them so many times, but they are essential. All living things, plants, animals, bacteria, fungi need respiration or do respiration. One thing that's curious, one thing we've been hearing about a lot are about viruses, right? They cannot do respiration. Cannot do respiration. That's why they have to come after you. Come after plants. Plants can get viruses too. Little known fact. And, well, a lot of people know it, but plants can also get cancer. But we need energy for our cells to work, for respiration, to power ourselves. So we have to learn about it. One thing that's interesting, a lot of experiments in the past when students like yourselves have been learning about respiration, they'll find poor little insects and shove them in a tube and then seal it off and then record what's going on inside while the animal's like struggling to breathe. Because if you put an animal in a tube, you should see CO2 levels increase, oxygen levels increase. That's what happened if we were stuck in a tube. So to prove or to show that's happening, that's what's been happening. But is it really okay to use animals in research? What do you guys think? It is, or I meant to say, is it okay to use animals in research? My handwriting is like the worst it's ever been. What do you think? Are there rules that can be enacted that'll be okay? What about as long as there's no pain on those animals? What if it's essential? For example, in order to get a vaccine right now, what if we have to test it out on some mice or some rabbits, and some of the mice and rabbits might die in that? Is it worth it for the benefit of the of the health of you, your neighbors, your loved ones? So is there another alternative to using animals? Alternative. And what we're going to do, we are definitely going to use an alternative to do this. After we do the catalase, we're going to do another virtual lab. Well, actually, is it the second part? I can't remember. It might be the second part of this lab. I'll get back to you on that. Is there an alternative to using animal? And that's usually plants, and that's what I like to use. But some people might even dispute that, because we'll be growing plants, and then those plants won't survive their normal lifespan, so maybe that's killing to some people. So anyway, these are all ethical things we need to think about. I know a lot of you might be against animal testing, maybe for things like cosmetics, but maybe for medicines and treatments, it's okay. So there's a lot of gray area there. We can talk about it. I had a great conversation with one of your soon-to-be English teachers during an IB meeting about this. So basically, this is what's happening. We have cell respiration. We're putting in C6H12O6. That's glucose, otherwise known as a sugar, otherwise known as a carbohydrate. Okay, that's usually what we talk about when we do respiration. But we can use, sorry to touch my face so much today. We can use fats, proteins to do this as well. And the idea is mix it with some oxygen. That's why we gotta breathe. And the reaction continues. And you end up making CO2. Sorry, I'm messing that up. CO2 and H2O. So carbon dioxide and water. We're breathing that out. We don't really notice the water so much. It gets recycled in our cells. But importantly, you'll see this molecule ADP turn into ATP. And the difference you can see right here. 2 phosphates. Now you have 3 phosphates together. And that is how respiration makes energy. This is it right here. You know this. You know how respiration makes energy. So I'm going to have you draw this a bunch of times. Okay. Moving on. Once your cells make ATP, you can use it for energy. Energy. Let's see if this works. All right, figured out my little technical glitch there. Thankfully, so ATP is what is the fastest way for energy to get life. That's the thing that really gets you going. You think about food we eat, probably sugar would be the thing that, oh, we have some sugar, we feel good instantly. We have fat or protein. It takes a while for that energy to get going. But sugar, boom, 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 sugar gets us going. You have to try to control that urge to go out to the sugar when we're feeling like we need some energy. So you need to do a lot of important things in your cells. And one of those things is synthesizing. Synthesizing large molecules, making your body, making the hormones, making all the tissues that build up your body, pumping ions. So a lot of pumping going on in your cells for sure. Ions need to go back and forth across the membrane, and that requires energy. It's a thing called active transport. I think we went over that earlier in topic 1, I think. Things need to be moved around the cells. Things like vesicles, those are big spheres filled with stuff, and they need to get dragged all over the cell, like shipping, like UPS. And you also, muscle contraction needs a lot of energy. Probably think of the most when you think of energy. Move around. And that takes energy. The more you move, the more energy you need. And the energy is released when the ATP gets split into ADP. Okay, so basically popping off one of those P's gives you energy and gives you ATP. So remember, ADP is like a half charge battery. ATP gives you that full charge. Anaerobic is something we need to talk about. That's when you do not use oxygen. So no oxygen. And this happens in a lot of situations. So let's look at glucose, our sugar here. Note the ring. The 5 carbons in the ring with the 6 carbon hanging out outside. Why is that happening? Okay, so this is the cell here. Boom, into the cell. You have this first process called glycolysis, and it makes pyruvate. There's no oxygen, so it totally skips the mitochondria. Doesn't even go near it, and just stays in the cytoplasm. If you're a yeast, you'll make CO2 and ethanol. If you're a human, you'll make lactate and no CO2, not lactase, lactate. Lactate. And that'll cause some soreness. We'll talk later bit about that. And that's no oxygen, anaerobic, and this is aerobic. So you'll know, start out the glucose, but we will add oxygen here. Same glycolysis step happens. But instead of just bypass the mitochondria, that pyruvate goes into the mitochondria, as well as that oxygen. It goes through a bunch of things like the Krebs electron transport chain, and then you get oxygen. I'm sorry, you get CO2, and then you get water. Okay, so in goes the sugar and the oxygen, out comes the CO2 and the water, and we see that all the time as we're breathing. And that's part 1 video.